Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Lovers Podcast. I'm your host, Brock. With me, as always, is my co host, Hunter Nisley. Hunter, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Brock. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing just fine, doing just great. Happy to be back for
Sir.
another podcast. Before we get into the main topic of today, we're going to touch real quick on some of our previous episodes. First off, we're going to say that Colorado football is now 0-5, and they have fired their coach.
Yeah,
And
good.
I listened to the Joel Klatt show. Joel Klatt, former Colorado quarterback, actually, and he even said he's like, I'm faithful to Colorado, but I don't think they're going to win a game this season.
Yeah, things look ugly in Colorado, but hey, at least we don't have Colorado to fall back on. We got Rutgers football to fall back on. Losing in Rutgers fashion. Nebraska, who also has not been good.
Yeah,
Although they've been better since they fired uh oh my gosh, I'm blanking.
Scott Frost.
Scott Frost, since they fired Scott Frost.
Yeah,
Things have looked better for Nebraska, but Rutgers still bad.
yeah. I'll admit my take was a little bit hypocritical at the time because they were 3-1 when I said they should be kicked out, but they're now 3-3, and it doesn't get any better from there. At least it looks like it's not getting much better from there. Also, we were down big on the Philadelphia Phillies, and they came out strong against. Well, they had a great comeback at the end of Game One, and then they won to put the Cardinals away.
Sir, yeah, Ryan Helsley only gave up 9 runs total on the year. Gave up 4 runs in less than an inning to the Philadelphia
Yeah,
Phillies. So that was you know, as a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, I was kind of hoping. I mean, it was kind of a lose-lose situation for me. Cardinals are in the division of my favorite team. Phillies are in the same state as my favorite team. Didn't really have a team I wanted to win there. But congrats to the Phillies. They're hot and they're up 1-0 on the Braves currently too. So hey, playoff baseball, anything can happen.
anything can happen, baby. Let's go. Alrighty. Oh, also, I did put a little graphic for this in the last one, but in case you haven't seen that. I said App State beat Michigan in 2006. It was actually 2007. Just
Mm.
wanted to put a quick correction on that, but I was close enough. But I think that's about all I had to say on our last couple episodes. Anything for you?
Uh, Cleveland Guardians. Even though they lost game one to the Yankees, it's a long series. Best
Great.
best of five, baby.
Alrighty. Yeah. Go Yankees. Like I said, I just found out I'm a big Yankees fan, so guess I'm also. I guess I should be happy for the Phillies. I have that Phillies shirt I wear, and I'm not even repping them. Anyway, as you can see from the title, we are going to be talking NIL deals and our thoughts, our opinions, what's maybe like the bigger goal for it. This topic was brought up by a viewer who left the comment. This viewer goes by Sea Bears Hate Circles. Great name, by the way. Great picture. I won't read the whole thing. It's very lengthy, but it starts off great first show, guys. Looking forward to more. I really appreciate that. Later in the comment, they bring up. I know it's an age-old debate that's been discussed by many, but you should consider a show on the question of whether or not college athletes should be paid. Along with that, what are your thoughts on college athletes now being able to profit off their name, image, and likeness? They mentioned a few more things, and they said, I think some would make the argument that many colleges have basically become giant football programs with education as a secondary thing, and allowing players to profit will only make things worse. It's hard for some people to stomach spending millions on the program with tuition continue to rise as many struggle to afford it. Yeah, I think that's a great comment. I think that's a great thing to go off of. Before we start our opinions, how we feel about it, I did a quick brief history of the NIL deal. Also, if you don't know what an NIL deal is, it stands for name, image, and likeness. So the players, this means that college athletes are now able to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. They're not being paid to play. So if someone plays basketball or football, they aren't getting paid for that specifically. It's if they want to sell some merch, if they want to be in a commercial advertising something. I think I have a few other things written here. I mean, that covered autograph signings, things like that. Names on the jersey. And the big one, NCAA football is coming
Yes.
back.
Excited for that. Summer. Really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah. So, but first, I was kind of like, how did all this come about, or what were like a few of the background things? The first kind of like, the first little pebble going down the hill to start an avalanche was on September 30th of 2019 when California became the first state to push an NIL law. It was to take place in 2023, but was then moved forward to 2021. Now, the NCAA, they weren't quite ready for that, weren't quite happy about that. They were quoted as saying that it was harmful, unconstitutional, and an existential threat to college football. So time passes, people are starting to like get behind this. In October 2019, um, the NCAA is like, okay, everyone, change up your, uh, all your divisions, make your own kind of NIL rules by January of 2021. So everyone's like, okay, cool, we're good. Well, then out of nowhere, and a year, 2 years later, the NCAA is like, they back off that deal, and they're trying to get a delay on it. They're like, hey, we're not going forward with this. We're just going to delay. We're going to talk about it, right? No one wants to talk about it. This thing's getting steam again. Now, a couple more rocks are getting on the avalanche. Now, what I believe is really the huge crash, what really brings everything down, well, not down, but like gets things going, is on June 21st, 2021. The U.S. Supreme Court rules unanimously that the NCAA cannot limit educational related benefits to athletes. And then a lawyer and an associate of the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, writes, nowhere else in America can businesses get away with agreeing not to pay their workers a fair market rate on the theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers on a fair market rate. The NCAA is not above the law, which I thought that last part was a little like, whoa. Um, so now the NCAA, they're kind of like scrambling a bit. They continue to ask Congress to pass federal legislation, have a hard rule on all of this, and that's not going anywhere. And then July 1st, NIL goes wild. Kids across the country are signing deals. Um, let's see if I have any. Okay, that's about the brief history. And one more thing I wanted to say quick is there's the king of NIL deals, Raekwon Smith out of Norfolk State in Virginia, said he had over like 70 NIL deals. He's a dual athlete of track and football, so he's doing really well for himself. That's about the most for the history for it. Now I'm going to turn it over to my co-host. I really want to hear what he has to say.
Sure. Well, yeah. Thank you for going over some of the brief history there. I was going to bring up Raekwon Smith. Yeah, 70 NIL deals. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Good for him. Good for him. But I'm a big fan of NIL, and there's of course there's been a big debate about the amateurism in college sports, and if this is going to affect that, if this is essentially going to be a pay to play situation. And of course, the goal is for that not to happen. NIL is still very much in its infancy, so really can't say for sure yes or no what exactly is going to happen with NIL because nobody really knows. This is all very new for the universities, for the student athletes, for fans like us. It's new for everybody. Um, but I'm a big fan of it just for it, to not allow a student athlete to receive essentially any type of compensation outside of their scholarship uh, in any way is kind of crazy. Just to say, if you do receive any compensation, you're pretty much going to get suspended, kicked off the team, kicked out of college sports. Uh, and it was really a crazy thing, even for things as small as somebody buying them dinner was and sometimes was illegal. It was not allowed, which is really mind blowing. But I think it's going to bring a lot of good things to college sports, and not even just to college football. I think to all of college sports. Uh, Whenever back in July 1st of 2021, whenever NIL just kind of erupted, and it was people could sign deals and they could kind of go crazy with it. At that time, at least, there was the estimated values for the top college athletes. 14 of the 25 at least highest potential earners were women in women's sports, especially gymnastics was a really popular one for women's sports. So this isn't just just for, the big time NCAA football players. This is for football, for basketball, for gymnastics, for softball. This is for a lot of different people. And I really think it's going to have a really positive, or at least I'm keeping my fingers crossed, it's going to be really positive for college sports and just for college athletes in general.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you brought up about the the people getting in trouble for someone buying them dinner. I remember listening to oh no, it was an NBA game where they had um, Dick Vitale, and they had who's the older player from UCLA. He commentates a lot.
From you, Walton.
Yeah, they had Walton,
Yes.
and the Bill Walton was saying that he treated one of his players, or he was like, this was after his time in UCLA, and he took one of the players to like an NBA game, and Dick Vitale joked, he's like, oh, that's an NCAA violation, and Bill Walton was like, oh yeah, it was. The kid ended up getting suspended for it, and Dick Vitale was like, oh dude, I was just kidding. I didn't think it was actually a violation. I think that's um, just stuff like that is like absolutely ridiculous. Like you just took someone to a game. Maybe you gave them gas money. Like I don't know. It seems like no one really knows this. Most college students, people in college, are not rich. They're scraping by. I know friends that are having ramen dinner every night. So if someone's like, hey, you want some gas money? They're gonna take it. Like you want to go to a basketball game? Yeah, they're gonna take it. Um, as for NIL deals, I have like a very mixed feelings about it. Like on one hand, so yeah, these things I mentioned, it's nice that they can get some money. Hey, buy gas, do some more things with their free time. Um, well, with one thing that was nice was that even though it was annoying that the players didn't get any compensation, at least there was like a hard ruling, drop the hammer, this is what the rules are. Now the rules are not quite defined. And now people are kind of just signing a lot of deals at once. A lot of young kids are getting a lot more than the average bit of money. Like they're really getting thrust into stardom, a lot more responsibility, and yeah, like 70 NIL deals. Like that's insane. Like that's good for him, but and it's definitely frustrating. I could understand like being a college athlete, and you go to the national championship, and just everyone's getting rich except for you, but you're the reason everyone's here. And for a while, the NCAA had the perfect business. They had this massive successful business, and they didn't have to pay half their employees. That's what every business wants, to just not have to pay their employees, and they can just be like, oh, it's the rules, we don't have to pay you. So getting the NIL deal, making it so that they can profit a little bit, like that is really great, and I like that. We get to see like C.J. Stroud. He's in the Heisman House commercials. Like I really like that. It's cool that he gets to be a part of that, even though he's still in college. Like that's all very fun. I just think no one's really thinking about what the long term um, effects of this is. I saw Dabo Swinney, coach of the Clemson Tigers. He had a few like mixed things to say. He was like, there's no rules, no guidance, no nothing. It's out of control. It's not sustainable. Um, he says lots of kids with no degrees make decisions based on the wrong things, short term stuff, and they're sacrificing like the long term for short term um, things. Like NIL deal, focus on this, not really focusing on your college degree and like what is your future like. And he says like he would go on to say things like at the end of the day, the only people that are going to get the worst of it are the kids. They're gonna whatever if there was something bad to happen, like the people who were like, hey, do you want to endorse this? They're going to be fine. The coaches are going to be fine. It's the players who will probably have the worst of whatever the worst like ending to this is, or outcome, the unforeseen outcome that nobody was really thinking of. Did you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you kind of see what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and I guess to a point I can understand that if things do go south with NIL or NIL deals in general, It's going to be the student athletes who are going to get the brunt of that. But I do think that, you know, opening up NIL for these student athletes, this isn't necessarily uh, something that's brand new to everybody. There are millions of people that make money off of their name, image, and likeness all over the world, including college-age kids. There are other kids in college who maybe they started a YouTube channel about it could be about anything. It could be about a day in the life of a college student, and they could profit off of that potentially. And I think that, I get where Dabo's coming from, but this isn't something new. This is just allowing them to do what any other student athlete or any other person in the world is allowed to do. Um, so, but I know he is somewhat against it, but
Yeah.
it is still super, super early. We're only just over a year into this, so that there's going to be a lot of changes likely that's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of unforeseen things that might happen, but at the end of the day, uh, they're just allowing these kids to do what anybody else is allowed to do, what you and I are allowed to do if we wanted to, and that's just to make money off of ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, in terms of like the sport, so I guess I'm kind of focusing a little bit too much on college football, but that I feel like is one of the bigger parts of it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say there's, especially in the long run. I mean, college football brings in most money out of any college sport, and it's the most popular and largest of college sports too.
Yeah.
It's college football.
Yeah, so like we're already seeing like I think we brought this up before, or a lot of people brought this up like how slowly college football this is sort of adding to the future of college football and how NIL plays into this is like where's the sport going? Like is it going to become a lot like the NFL? We're kind of seeing some of the conferences falling apart, not falling apart, but trying to get newer teams in because a lot of those teams are switching to just like Big Ten or SEC. And with the transfer portal, that's practically free agency. That's what everyone says. We might as well say it like that. Might as well be free agency in college football. And so, and yeah, with people bringing in with college football bringing in a lot of players. I read this older article from 2018 where it was about how LSU spent $28 million on their new locker room for their team, and then a student tweeted, "This is our library," and it was like this old, decrepit. There's like holes in the wall, like this library is not being like supported. And I read multiple articles where this girl was just getting trashed. Like people were like, "Hey, whatever puts a better product on the field, sacrifices need to be made. If you want to read a book, just get one and read it in your dorm." Like, man, like I like couldn't believe it. Like, now there is a little bit of like I don't know like the deeper part of it, but it is like this is a publicly funded library, and this um, locker room is supported by like boosters and the alumni and whatnot. So like there's a little bit of you know like the money's coming from a certain group of people, whereas the library is just kind of publicly funded. But surely, if someone is getting a $28 million locker room, I believe like you could probably help out a library and help out your students. But this kind of goes back to what that comment said of like, are people slowly just going to focus more on the sports part of college? And I mean, there's still a ton of people graduating. There's still a ton of people that don't care about college sports, but it does seem like all of a sudden college sports is becoming this big, this huge monster that no one's really acknowledging. They just kind of keep feeding it.
Yeah, it's kind of a slippery slope. It really is. I mean, I think we're already at the point where the only thing that's truly important in college sports is the fact that these universities are making money. And I mean, we've even seen it with even things outside of college sports, like tuition. is consistently increasing everywhere, which is a ton of money for everybody too. Um, but it, it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, college football or college sports in general, they've promoted amateurism so much for so long, and about, these kids are here for, they're here for an education first, and they're here for, which some of them are,
Yeah,
which is fair. Of course, not everybody is there strictly for sports, but at least when we're talking about college sports, this is how a lot of these universities are getting money. It's because they're six home game Saturdays a year is what's really driving a lot of this money. The Big Ten just signed an absolutely massive TV deal uh, for their college sports, specifically mainly college football and college basketball are kind of the main things there. Um, and no, it's unfortunate, but it's a business already, and there's no turning back at this point of what college sports really is. And you know, it's good. I think it's good that these players are going to make some of their own money, but these universities have what their best interests are, and that's just how much money can they get in their pocket right now, which is, it's unfortunate for other students that aren't college athletes, like you mentioned the library situation at LSU. Uh, they could certainly find a way to chip in some way, but when it comes to the boosters and the alumni, all they want is that good football program because it's going to look good when they're on TV on Saturday nights at 7 o'clock. It's going to look good when the stadium's sold out. It's going to look good when they're a top 10 team and they're playing in in a big game, or if they make the college football playoff. It's just more money, more and more, and they want that success more and more. And that's just, unfortunately, that's all that truly matters with a lot of these situations.
yeah. I think that's a good point too. Like, yeah, some people are there for their education, but it is. I also think it is true. Like, yeah, a lot of people are just there to play sports. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think, um, I mean, that's totally fine. Like, did it happen? Like, it's been happening for years. Like, let's just be real about it. Like, people go. A lot of people probably go to Alabama because they have the best football team. You want to watch the best football team. You want to be a part of that environment. I can't blame anybody for that because I've thought that myself. Like, be really just be really great to be a part of this environment. Be like have all these fun stories of. I remember going there and being at this game, and that's really fun. You really can't blame anyone for that. I think there's too much of just like in college football. There's no draft. It's just whoever is going to wherever they decide to play, and there's talk of just like people are offering kids in like middle school. They're like scouting kids in middle school and offering them deals already in middle school. To me, again, I'm like, just wait a second. Like, you're asking kids in middle school, kids in high school, to make huge decisions, like even bigger than before. Like, with all this money on the table too, like, I don't know. I will admit I was in favor of like there was Kobe Bryant. He skipped college basketball and went right to the NBA, and I was in favor of that. I was like, oh, I think he should be able to do that. But I feel like, I mean, he was in high school, whereas like these kids in middle school, like they're just trying to go, they're just trying to like wait for pizza day on Friday and go home and play whatever game as they want to play. Like you remember being in middle school, like I don't know, I wouldn't know what to do if someone said, yeah, you can come to this university and you'll get all this. I'm like, I would have no idea what to do with any of that.
Yeah, you're 14 years old. You don't even understand any of that,
No.
at that point. But and that's even goes past the college coaches and things that may be talking up a student athlete at that age. You'll hop on Twitter and you'll see Bleacher Report post some mixtape of some seventh grade basketball player who's like is now playing varsity and crossing up guys who are 17 years old, and it's unfortunate because they're a part of it too. The whenever they have those mixtapes online. So it's certainly. I mean, there's a lot of things that are messy with it, even outside of NIL. There's a lot of messiness. Um, I think one thing to look at, even with these opportunities for these kids at such young ages, I do think it can help with a little bit of financial literacy as well. Just, most of us aren't going to have, you know, big NIL deals ever in our
Right.
lives.
Yeah.
But and there's certainly been some rough stories of, young person gets a lot of money, and in 5 years and 10 years it's all gone. But there's also a lot of success stories that these kids are set up for generations after, you know whether they do get to the league, and now potentially if they can, with NIL, maybe they can, even if it's not the league, maybe they can start their own business, or maybe they can, it can just help. It can help with a lot of things. It can help them get out of debt. And
Yeah.
not all of these students either have a full ride scholarship whenever they do get to college. A lot of these kids are walk-ons as well, who are paying school bills just like you and I would. So I think for them too, I think this could be especially beneficial for the non-scholarship athletes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of like yeah, they're allowed to do what you and I are allowed to do, or what a regular person is allowed to do. Just because they play sports doesn't mean they shouldn't be allowed to do it. I just think that like I think the bigger part I focus on is like we're talking serious money right now. Like
Yeah.
a lot of
Oh, there's some big time bucks in it.
yeah, so big time stakes. And like if someone if they look at this kid in 8th grade and he's doing really well in football, and they give him the deal, and then he gets to college and he doesn't do as well. Well, the people who gave him that NIL deal, they aren't really looking out for his best interests per se. They're just like, hey, do this commercial, we want to make money. And potentially some of those scouts, I mean, their job is just to sell the idea of going to this university. And then, but once they've committed, again, they're not really in their best interest. I mean, now he's got their coach and whatnot, but I feel like those people we won't really hear about. We'll just focus on, look at this person, they're so successful getting this deal. Whereas if someone falls off, like that person is just like, again, made these bad decisions, and everyone's gonna say, well, you're the one to blame for it. And I don't know. I still think like there is some truth to that, but there's also like studies of when does your brain mature, and when are you considered an adult. Like the different studies show that that's well through your 20s now. And now again, you're giving kids like all this money. I guess I'm just repeating myself at this point, but you do you understand where I'm kind of going with this
Oh
here?
yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, I mean, it's definitely very messy. We're kind of setting ourselves up for, some big story on ESPN in 15 years. It's going to be an E60 of big time high school athlete, all this NIL money, and when they're 28, things didn't go well for them, and they're starting from square one again. And it's going to be, you know, not just that person. It's going to be a lot of people. So
Yeah,
it's certainly, and nobody has any idea where this is going to go yet. It's certainly up in the air.
yeah. So yeah, so generally, I guess if I had to say if I like it or don't like it, despite everything I said, like I do like it. Again, I like that the players are getting a little bit of something now. They aren't just working hard, and it is like I remember Tim Tebow. He went. Now I like Tim Tebow. Gonna be honest, Tebow fan here. Not gonna lie, but I wasn't. A few years ago, he went on this big rant where he was like, "Oh, what happened to when people chose where they wanted to play because they wanted to wear the jersey and they wanted to compete for a national championship, and they just wanted to play hard." And I'm like, Tim, that's all great. Like, people still think that. But imagine if you busted your ass, you're sitting here at the national championship game, all these people watching, all these cameras, all this everything, and you aren't getting a cent. And if you do, and if you decide to, yeah, again, if someone decides they're going to buy you lunch that day, you could never play football again. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
there's certainly people often forget about the things like that with NIL. Like, yeah, this is an 18-year-old kid playing in a national championship game. He's on the biggest stage of his life, biggest stage in sports at that very moment. Uh, it, all all the staff that's on the sideline getting a bunch of money. His university or her university getting a bunch of money. and they're just there for the experience. They're a student athlete. If they could leave there and somebody hands them a $5 bill, they could get kicked out of college sports right after
Yeah,
that. But meanwhile, they just brought millions of dollars of revenue to their school, and they weren't getting a dime of that. So I do ultimately think it's a good thing. And in the past there were some really bad stories like with Reggie Bush uh and the potential pay to play scenario that he was in. He lost the Heisman Trophy. In 1987, SMU's football team got the death penalty for
yeah,
players being paid to play, and they really have never recovered from that. The
no,
program itself has really never recovered from that. Um, I do think it overall it's going to be a good thing, and it's going to be a good thing for all college athletes, not just the big time college football players, uh, but hopefully it trends in the right direction though, because there's certainly a path that it could go the wrong direction, and things could get really bad with it could potentially become a pay to play. And there have been already a couple stories of some team was like, hey, you could make this much money on NIL, so you should come here instead. And they've gone to, instead of going to maybe Florida, they went to Miami or
yeah,
or Florida State or something like that. So there's I'm really hoping it works out, because I do think it's overall it should be a good thing for everybody in college sports.
yeah. And I'm excited. I'm excited that we get NCAA football back. Like I
It's good
mean,
for us.
yeah, that's good for us. That I think that'll be fun. I hope. I maybe I wouldn't know like what rule you would say, but I do agree that it could use with a more like these are the rules kind of thing,
Mm.
like a more hard ruling on it. But again, I wouldn't even know where to start with that. And I'm also hoping that traditionally through our society, not just in sports, but traditionally, no change happens, nothing happens until something really, really bad happens. So hopefully, like they get ahead of that and they make a good rule and they can help some of these players before, again, like you said, like or like we brought up, like a kid goes to this college, loses everything, or overdosed on a million drugs because they're young and they have enough money to buy anything they want. So
More money, more problems.
yeah, more money, more problems, exactly. So hopefully somehow they can get ahead of it and be like a ruling that would help. But it just seems like nothing will change. Like this will just keep growing until there's some awful event that happens, and then that'll be what helps right the ship. But right now, I don't think really anybody's thinking about that.
No, right now I want money. I want it in my pocket, and I'm gonna figure out how to do that. And whether the universities like it or not, that's
Yeah.
that's what's happening right now.
Um, and I brought this up before. Well, I thought this recently. Now, do you think there could ever be a college football draft?
A college football draft.
Yes.
I would I would say probably not, because I there would be just so much chaos and mayhem with it, and just with the way things are structured. I guess never say never. I mean, you truly never know. We've seen with the transfer portal has changed a lot in the last couple of years. It's given the players a lot more freedom to switch schools and not be penalized for it. And so if some people say, like, yeah, you mentioned earlier, it's been called free agency in college sports with the transfer portal. Um, I would say probably not on the college draft, but there's been a lot of changes in college sports with conference realignment, transfer portal, NIL. So you never know. Anything could happen.
Yeah, I think, I think it will happen,
You
but
think so?
not like if I had to put a timetable on it, probably not for like another 40 plus years. But I don't know. Like imagine they figure out the NIL deals, and then imagine like, well, I believe the NCAA with this NIL deals, like that's a blow to the NCAA. Also, like I brought this up before, I bring up my buddy Joe Klatz again. He said that he speaks to a lot of the coaches at these Power Five schools, and he asked them like, "Hey, what could change in college football?" a lot of times they say we could use a commissioner. So if they get a commissioner, NCAA goes down, right? And now
Mhm.
imagine, bit by bit the cream rises to the top, and we have the AFC and the NFC in college football. Where like there's all the divisions, those smaller ones get pushed down, and we get two just mega conferences at the top. And we've seen, um, we're probably like, oh, there's never going to be playoffs in college football. We got college football playoffs. Oh, there's never going to be, free agency. Transfer portal very similar to free agency now. Players are never going to get paid in any way. They're getting paid now. So it just seems like I don't think it's impossible. It's definitely like how would you do it? I think what I was the point I was trying to make earlier was like so you have these two mega conferences. Maybe what happens is like here's what you do. You either get drafted by one of the teams in the two mega conferences or you just go to a team not in the mega 5 sorry, not in the
The mega.
the mega 5 conferences and the two mega 5 conferences. I think people would watch the heck out of that. Honestly, again, what like does it
Yeah.
make sense? Would it work? We don't know. Does NIL make sense? Does it work? We don't know yet. Did the college football playoffs make sense when they made it? A little, but they're got to expand it now because they realize it wasn't the best format. So I don't think it's completely impossible. A friend of mine brought up a good point of like, well, what do you do about the people on scholarships? Do you get rid of scholarships? Like that's a rough thing to talk about. And you can't do that. So again, I don't. I would say I think at some point there will be. It's like if going back to that story of the LSU like locker room, if somehow again like if sports just keep growing, it seems like people don't really care about most of the educational stuff. Like, and if they find a way to make money off of a draft, like they'll do it. Like I don't. I mean like it's unlikely. I'll be fair, but with all this other stuff happening, I don't think you can say it's impossible if that makes sense.
Oh, I agree completely. I mean, with the potential of two, like you said, mega conferences, it looks like if that is going to happen, it will likely be what the SEC is right now, plus adding teams, and the Big Ten plus adding teams would likely be those two. Uh, I do actually agree with the potential need of a commissioner in college, just college sports in general. But I guess probably to start with college football, just because it's the biggest out there. Um, there is a lack of structure in college football. There is some teams play three non-conference games. Some teams play four non-conference teams. Some teams aren't in a conference. The independents aren't even there. And they can't play in a conference championship game. And then there's some conference championship games that are played at a neutral site. Some are played at the top team's home stadium. And with the expansion of the college football playoff now in a couple of years, it's going to be 12 teams instead of four teams. And there's I don't think all the rules are totally set on that, but it's likely the conference champions, the top five conference champions, uh, and then the at-large bids. And there's just so much constant change, and there's so much uh, uncertainty, and there's certainly not a equal playing field when it comes to a lot of things in college football. So a commissioner could actually potentially help, but then maybe there is a college football draft, and then whenever a player doesn't get drafted, they get filtered down into what I guess would those teams become FCS teams at that point, or would all college football Division I schools just merge into if you're not in the Big Two conferences, you're just in the rest of Division I, including the FCS teams.
Yeah,
It's there's it's just a mess, and at least in the FCS, they have some structure
yeah,
over there. They seem to be doing things right. So maybe we could learn a thing or two from them.
yeah. Well, and that's a big point too. Of like the reason why I think there'd have to be two mega conferences is because, like, if next year there was a college football draft, it would last months.
Oh,
Like,
oh yeah,
in the NFL you have like what 33 teams,
32.
32 teams. So like that's a that that lasts a couple days, yeah. But like college football, you know, you have all the teams in the Power Five. You have the teams in the American Athletic, and you have these independent schools like you said. So they'd have to clean all that up. So again, like that's why I say like 50 years from now, maybe when they clean all that up, maybe there's more of a structure to it all. But yeah, and that's a good thing too. Like, well, what happens if you're not in the two mega conferences? Like, you just exist. You're just playing for something else. Like, do you just not even get a chance at all? And Nick Saban, I watched an interview with Nick Saban where he even brought up like how in Europe the soccer teams, if you do poorly for so long, you get relegated out of that division. So is that what it's going to be like if if your team plays well enough, you get a chance to go into the mega conference, and then if you're poor enough, you get kicked out of the mega conference. Man, that I don't know that.
Would be crazy.
Yeah, it would be
That would be
crazy.
wild.
So yeah, definitely not anytime soon. But I truly believe at some point there will be maybe not a specifically a draft, but they'll come up with something similar to it.
Yeah.
Not anytime
I,
soon.
I mean, yeah, things are always evolving, and no matter what, people are gonna watch. People like to sit at home on Saturdays or go to the games and tailgate on
Hmm.
Saturdays. So no matter what, there's gonna be buzz, there's gonna be money, and people are gonna be watching the games regardless.
Yeah,
So whether they go that route or not, NCAA is still making money.
yeah. And I have friends who like they're always telling me about signing day and who they're looking to sign, like what teams are looking to sign who. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I hope the teams I like get good players, but again, like I said, those people are in high school. That's not really like it's too early for me to be that involved with their life, so to speak. Like let them make the choice they want, and I think that is like, I mean, it comes down to recruiting, but also like who wins, and one. I don't know if issue is the right word, but one thing that is true in college football is that a lot of the best players go to the best universities. Occasionally, there's a diamond in the rough where someone's just really passionate about a certain program and they go to that program. But seemingly, like you look at like the NFL, it's like it almost seems like half the NFL is like Alabama players. Like I
A
watched,
lot of Power Five dudes in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think to me the NIL is like the first big step towards what I think will be some kind of college football draft. Again, not for any time soon, but someday.
It's the very beginning of a lot of change.
Yeah.
There are very likely a lot of change in college football.
All right, and I believe that's pretty much all I had. Yeah. So my final thoughts, NIL. I think it's if I had to say if I liked it or didn't like it, I do like it. It's good that the players get a little bit of, you know, something back to help them out. They're really struggling with their college debt. Um, I'm happy we get to play a new NCAA football game, and I just hope that we can avoid some big catastrophe with it, get ahead of it, and have a better ruling on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall it should be a good thing, and it'll really depend on how it gets regulated, if it gets regulated. But ultimately, I do think it's a good thing. And uh, one NIL deal I came across, I just wanted to mention real quick.
Okay.
There's a Nebraska football player. His name is Dakotas Crawford, and he signed a deal with an HVAC company. His first name is Dakotas, and this company offers the coldest air conditioning out there in Nebraska, and he signed a deal with them.
Oh
I thought
my,
that one was pretty unique.
that is pretty great.
That's the beauty of NIL right there.
Who's the player? Who's the player that has the mustard deal? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Might have to look this one up on the fly. I think his first name is Dijon. So that
Oh,
his
you know what? I think I did come across
I'm,
this actually.
I think I'm gonna have to look this one up on the fly. Give me
Like
one
Dijon
moment.
must. Oh, that would be. I know there were deals with people whose they had the name Reese, whether it was their first name or last name, and they all signed deals across all levels of college sports with Reese's cups,
Yeah.
which I thought was cool too.
Okay. It's actually it's not Dijon, but it's Bijan.
Mm.
It's let me B I Jan. He has his own Bichon mustard.
That's pretty
It's
cool.
like a touchdown in your mouth. Who's this guy? This guy play for? I think he plays for Missouri.
Missouri. Super unique. That's really cool.
Yeah. So that's cool. Oh no, it's Texas. Sorry about that. It's a
Texas.
Texas, but like, so that's a fun thing. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's So hopefully we answered your question. Sea bears hate circles. Hopefully gave you enough information on that. I'd love to hear anybody else's comments. Please sound off in the comment section. What do you think? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Are people just not paying attention? Does nobody deserve to get paid? Does everybody deserve to get paid? Should Coach athletes never see a single cent after their hard work? And
Shout out Seabears Hate Circles too for leaving the comment, and
yeah,
we're always more than happy to for any feedback or any questions you guys have.
yeah, supporting the brand. This does remind me real quick of what I was gonna say of one more thing. Like in the ESPN 30 for 30, the the players talk about how they talk about how after their historic national championship run, they're like, we come back to Miami, we see these huge buildings being built.
Mhm.
Everyone's profiting off of their work, but they aren't. So that adds to they deserve a little bit of something.
Yes,
So
100%.
alrighty, well that about does it for me. Anything else for you, Hunter?
No, not at the moment. I would say there was a college football player who, you know how you can do horns down? Well, somebody did the U down the other
Oh
day,
no.
which I thought was funny.
Yeah,
But speaking of Miami, but no, yeah, I had a good time, and I'm excited to see where NIL goes from here on out.
yeah. All right, everyone. Well, that's gonna do it for us on the Sports Lovers podcast. We are gonna be on the bye week, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. My name is Brock with my co-host Nisley, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.